time for me to call to order the regular meeting of Greenwood County Council for Tuesday, May the 21st. Let me say I welcome each of you for being here tonight. Thank you for coming. Appreciate you taking your time and appreciate your patience. We were in executive session and we did not finish our business, so we have adjourned executive session, and we will return at the end of this meeting to complete that session for the reasons that were stated in our Administration and Finance Committee meeting. In accordance with the Freedom of Information Act, the date, the time, the location, and the agenda of this meeting has been posted on the front entrance of the Greenwood County Courthouse and also on the front entrance of the Greenwood County Library. A copy of that agenda has been made available to the media and also has been posted on the county's website. I'm going to ask Vice Chairman Chuck Moats to give our invocation, which will be followed by our Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand with me.
And would you pray with me? Eternal God, immortal, invisible, God only wise, we bow before you in reverent humility, seeking your presence and strength. May your grace be evident as we make our deliberations and decisions. Help us discern the truth in all matters and guide us to act in fairness and impartiality. Today, Father, we give thanks for all who work tirelessly each day in service to this community, a community we love and deeply appreciate. May they each one find satisfaction in their work and fulfillment in their daily duties. And Lord, may your Spirit stir among us tonight, warming our hearts and inspiring us to be worthy examples of grace, love, and peace. Indeed, Father, may all rancor, divisiveness, and malice be purged from our hearts and lives as we seek to live and act on a higher plane. This we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council, you have been provided with a copy of the minutes of the May the 7th regular meeting and the May 14th budget meeting. Are there any changes to those minutes? If not, do I have a motion to approve? Motion by Ms. Childs.
Second.
Second by Ms. Spencer. Any discussion? All in favor? And those minutes stand approved. Tonight we are pleased to have Reverend Furman Miller with us, who is going to provide us with some information regarding the Coalition Advocating Nonviolence. Reverend Miller, we welcome you and ask you to come forward.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Greenwood County Council persons, for allowing me this opportunity to come before you to speak for just a few moments on the Coalition Advocating Nonviolence and its project that is undertaking in a couple of days from now. The Coalition Advocating Nonviolence is supported by those persons in this community who stand against violence. This organization came about several months ago when we began to have a number of shootings in our community. And as you well know, we just had one Saturday night in our community. So the violence among young people continues at a disturbing clip. Initially, there were several people in the clergy and business community who came together to discuss ways that we might impact upon this and try to help to turn it around. And so this has been in the making now for about a year to bring a concert to Greenwood for young people Somebody might say, why do we need to bring a rapper into Greenwood? Well, there are all kinds of events in Greenwood. I enjoy the barbecue festivals. I enjoy all the uptown events, but they're always directed toward adults. Very rarely do we have anything that is directed to young people and sent forward to them in a way that they relate to. So it is our hope that by bringing in a very positive, internationally known hip-hop artist who, if you listen to his raps and his lyrics, he's a Christian. One of his major hits is, I'm not perfect, I'm a Christian. So we're having this event on June 2nd, which is a Sunday, the first Sunday in June. It's right after school lets out. Our focus is on the young people. Maybe if we can start working with the elementary, middle school, and high school youngsters and start trying to plant seeds for nonviolence. If we can just get one person there, that message would resonate within their soul and their spirit, perhaps we can begin to teach and help mold young people who don't find it necessary to commit violence. So I'm here to seek your support. You have a constituency. I would like for you to let your constituency know what this is really about, because many people say, what is this? Who is this coalition and what is this all about? It's just another way. I like to say we need to peel the onion. All of us can take part in it. And everyone who is here tonight, I would like for you to let your friends and neighbors know, because we're inviting all children, all young people, and the entire Greenwood community to come out and be a part of this. It's totally free. We have had members of this community to provide the funding to bring the entertainer here. I do want to thank Councilperson Edith Childs for her support in this endeavor. And there are others who may be here that have helped us. We've had some fraternities, we've had some churches who have donated their money. And so we want this to be something that Greenwood is proud of, not something that it's not a, we're not having a rap concert to cause violence, we're having one to try to stop violence. So please support us, please let your constituency know, and you all please support us as well. I don't mean this to be funny in any way. Bullets don't have color. So this is not a black concert. This is for everybody. Bullets will find you. No, we had a shooting in the mall. Terrible. Terrible. So this is just our efforts. So I want to hand you all a flyer, and I'll leave one or two that has some information about this artist. And if anyone has any questions, I'll certainly entertain questions, but I'll get out of your way. I know you have much business to do.
Thank you.
All right. And this one is a little information, a little biographical information on the artist. If you share that with each other, I don't have many of those left. All right.
Reverend Miller,
Yes, sir.
Obviously, you got outreach through the churches. How about, are we in the schools yet?
We gave to the school over 100 of these flyers to be distributed. I was told that they were put out earlier this week. But I think the fact that I didn't have the ability to perhaps be on a morning show at some of the schools to kind of explain this. So we're just hoping that this first effort, if we can do this, we want to continue to do it every year. That's what the goal is, because we want to, Greenwood County has always had good parks and recreation. I'm not going to get into that debate about what we don't have, the rec and all of that. But this is just another art form to reach young people. And if we can do this and some other things where we're planting seeds for nonviolence, I think it's worth the while. So yes, I'm trying to get it to the schools, but any other help you can suggest, I will accept it.
You got a couple of weeks left yet. How about the newspaper and radio you got? Or y'all-
Damien has given us an article in the newspaper, but I'm going to approach them again for another article.
Yeah, I'll talk to you later. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You taking donations at this address, this post office box? You taking donations?
Yeah, the P.O. Box, yes, ma'am. The main thing I want now is to make sure that young people are there. And maybe not always young people, because sometimes some of us, a little older people, can learn something from a positive message as well through a different genre, you know? So, thank you so much for your time. I don't want to hold up anyone else.
Just one more question.
Yes, sir.
Has your outreach fully covered the cost of putting on the performance? Is there a shortfall?
We're almost there.
Almost.
We're almost there. I hope by the end of this week. If I don't have it by the end of this week, may I call you? Yeah, I'm praying that by the end of this week that we will have it. There has been a positive response to those, but sometimes money's tight. So we're just waiting for some commitments and see if they're going to be able to make them. But if not, I certainly will let you know.
Thank you.
And anyone else that would like to volunteer or be a part of it, we would love to have you. This is for our community. It's for the glory of God and the community. Nothing else. I just happen to be the one that got put in the mix somehow to do it. Amen. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, does our policies allow you to put this event on our website? Since this is, since we've had our meetings with the communities and the different segments about violence, it seems like to me this should be able to be on our website.
No problem. No problem with that, Mr. Chairman. We'll take care of it.
If you need anything else from me.
Our next part of the agenda is the public comment sections, and our policies and our ordinance allows citizens to come to us and to speak to any item which is on our agenda. All it is required is for you to sign this comment sheet. And I see 3 names clearly, and there is one that was on here that seems to be scratched out. I see Mrs. Jenks. Are you here? Okay. Bishop, and I think that's Crawford. Did I say it right?
Correct.
It's Crawford. And Attorney Rock Wise. Dr. Hess is not wanting to speak. She had her name on here, but she crossed it out. So, Mrs. Jenks, I will call on you, and I will go ahead and give your address for the record. You live at 218 Heritage West Court in Greenwood.
I do.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you all for giving me this time. But yes, my name is Mrs. Jenks. That seems odd to me. Actually, I'm most known in the community as TJ's mom. When you get my age, that's you lose your identity. So I am here tonight representing a group of county taxpayers that some are here, a good deal are here. A lot of them couldn't make it tonight. But we are all serious advocates of keeping our money in Greenwood County. We believe in small businesses. We believe in using our dollars where we can in those small businesses. To prepare for this, I actually read the Greenwood County Procurement and Procedures Policy, which I think I get a round of applause for that. But anyway, it's complicated, but it's what the director of the library said she used to put out the bid. And in there, I found at least 3 or 4 times where it says that local businesses should not only be preferred, but they should be sought out to give a contract to. If you award this contract that we're talking about, I'm speaking to the Greenwood County Public Library cleaning contract. If you give that to Jan Pro, you're awarding the money to Georgia. Now, they have a local woman that is a franchisee, but we all know she'll get a piece, but most of the money will go to Georgia. And it's a $15,000 bid that's more expensive than the local contractor. And I don't think that's a good use of $15,000 of my money. I urge you to award this contract to a local vendor who had the contract for 6 years without one complaint. My understanding is there was a deficit in her package because she forgot to sign the signature sheet. Okay, I know you have the authority to overlook that. So please, I appeal to you, do not spend my money in Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you. Bishop Crawford, who lives at 4606 Moorfield Street.
Again, thank you for, that's correct. Thank you for allowing me to come to speak, you know, as a concerned taxpayer as well too, as far as how our money's been spent in the county. And I just have a question as far as the library, as far as the contract. And it is, it's the subcontractor, you know, per Lillian Williams. She's a franchise owner, and or is she the owner of the bid? That's my question. Per se, as far as the county, per se, want to extend this contract to her. My question is she a subcontractor? The subcontractor Lillian Williams, you know, is she a franchise owner? Is she a franchise owner, or is she the owner of the bid? Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I recognize Attorney Ron Wise, who lives at 356 Plantation Drive.
I'm here on behalf of Rose Jennings, the owner of Angel Touch Cleaning Incorporated. The first thing I would like to point out to council is the fact that the proposal for the bidding in this case did require that the bid be signed by someone responsible for the company. And had the bidding proposal stopped there, that would be a very legitimate argument that if it didn't sign, you've got a problem. However, the bidding requirements go on to say that this provision may be waived. And we were asking this council to waive that provision in this case. So it gave discretion to someone to whether or not to enforce that lack of signature. At the opening of the bid, which Ms. Jennings was there, they could have simply said, your bid is not signed, do you care to sign it now? And they would have waived that provision. But someone elected not to waive that provision, go by the very technical wording of the requirements, and cost the county about $15,000. That's not good judgment. I would call attention to the county procurement policy, which has been issued in this case, in all biddings. And they say basically, you look for local businesses. 3 times in that procurement policy, this council has said, let's seek out local businesses. And has that been done in this case? My research shows that there is no Jan Pro in Greenwood County as a corporation or doing business as. There is a Jan Pro of Western Carolina located in Simpsonville, South Carolina, and I have not checked Georgia. I would assume, and I've heard that the company that actually got the contract was Jan Pro of Augusta, Georgia. They obviously have somebody here to do the work, but I don't think that's what this body meant when they said seek out local businesses. Ms. Jennings' contract for both the 96 library and this building totaled about $42,000. $42,216, I think, to be exact. The bid for Jan Pro was about $15,000 higher than that. The procurement policy of this body also gives the county manager the absolute power to, find the page real quick, gives the power on page 5 of the procurement policy under bid specifications. It gives the county manager the right to waive technicalities. Lacking for signature on a bid as opposed to the actual contract, it certainly could be classified at most a mere technicality. So the county manager has the right to waive the technicality in this case and award this contract to Ms. Jennings. Ms. Jennings, as has been mentioned earlier, has done this work for about 6 years. If there's been any complaints, somebody forgot to tell her. She knows what she's doing with it. For some reason, she didn't get notification of the bid last year and didn't submit a bid. This year, she made sure she got notice of the bid and submitted one. She submitted a bid that's substantially lower than the winning bid. And some of the people on this panel raised, I thought, an interesting question in another discussion. When you have 8 people apply and 7 of them cannot comply with the requirements, it may be time to look at those requirements and how they're worded. And it can't be simply because those requirements are subject to some interpretation. The requirements should be clear so that they're not subject to interpretation. But Ms. Jennings has a history of being able to do the work here. She submitted a bid that's substantially lower. She is 100% in Greenwood County, and if this body abides by its procurement policies, I think the contract should be awarded to Ms. Jennings' company. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll stop here and ask County Council if any member has any additional requests for information from any one of the 3 who has just spoken.
I do, Chairman.
Then I will allow you to
Mr. Wise.
pose that question to
Mr. Wise, since you're representing a client,
Mr. Wise. Would you come back to the podium?
Okay. And I'm just curious in this regard. Thank you for your comments. The county attorney made us aware that in the applications for bid, the only bid that wasn't placed on the county procurement policy for bid was your client's bid. Why did your client make up her own contract, if I can use that term?
I don't know if I know the answer to that question. What do you mean? I don't understand the first part of it, to be frank with you. It followed, there was a RFP notice of cleaning services, which was handed out, which she followed. And the letter they got from Ms. Taylor, simply the only deficiency notice was signature page request for proposal for cleaning services.
Elizabeth, am I in error?
Mr. Chappell has the.
Mr. White, this is what he's referring to. See how the others followed the RFP and then signed the attached sheet?
Mm-hmm.
This is what was done by your client. She's, in essence, made her own form, is what he's saying.
That wasn't a deficiency that was raised.
I don't think he said it was a deficiency. He's simply pointing out, he's asking you a question about this.
Yeah, I don't know why that was done.
Well,
Other than the fact that if it's still a contract, it's a
I
contract.
pointed out only to say, if you don't utilize the same contract that was utilized by 7 other potential vendors, and you don't sign it, it appears to me, and I don't have I don't have a preference in this one way or another, but it appears to me you didn't have a contract.
Well, you have a contract, depends whether somebody wants to accept the terms of it. Now, if you deviate from a suggested format, and because you deviated from the suggested format and put provisions in there that were unacceptable to the library, then the library has every right to say we're not going to agree to that. But the contract she submitted still adhered to the requirements set out in the proposed bid, and that's the vital point, not that it follows the exact same wording. If the contract that Ms. Jennings proposed is exactly the same as JanPro as far as services to be performed, it matters very little whether or not you followed a particular form, so long as the substance is the same.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay.
I have been allowed to read the letters that were mailed to each of the bidders, and I have to agree with Mr. Wise. There was nothing noted in the reasons given for not considering her bid as to the form she used. The only reason given was that it was not signed.
Right.
So if the form was a problem, it was not noted in the letter that went to Ms. Rose. That's it. And I will close the public comment section, and we will take action on this request in just a few minutes, and we will hear from representatives of the library at that time. Council, we have third and final reading of an ordinance, 2019-07, which amends Chapter 6, Title 6 of the Greenwood County Code to create a flood management overlay zone for the management of floodplains and regulatory floodways within the unincorporated areas of Greenwood County. This is third and final reading. Is there anyone who would like any explanation from either the manager or the county engineer prior to taking any action? Are you ready to act? What is your pleasure?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion by Mr. Allison and a second by Dr. Moats. Is there any further discussion or any questions that you would like to ask? Then we'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion? And that is approved unanimously. Our next item of business is to consider a proclamation recognizing Emergency Medical Services Week. This was explained to you by the county manager in the administration and finance meeting. What is your pleasure, council?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Allison and a second by Ms. Childs. Any discussion? All in favor? And that proclamation is approved. Our next item of business is the awarding of a contract regarding cleaning services for the Greenwood County Public Library. I'm going to ask Director Taylor to come and to provide us with either the same information she did in the committee meeting or any additional information. And I recognize some members of the Greenwood County Library Board of Trustees in the audience. And as Mrs. Taylor completes her presentation, if any of you would like to speak, I will recognize any trustee who would like to speak after Mrs. Taylor. So Mrs. Taylor, proceed.
On January 2nd, the library published on its website and also on the South Carolina Business Opportunity website, also known as SCIBO, an advertisement for professional cleaning services. We had 8 responses from North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. The bids, it ran through March 29th at 2 p.m. Immediately after the deadline, we met in here and opened the bids. Of those bids, 6 of them did not include all of the paperwork that we asked for. We asked for licenses and permits, we asked for insurance, we asked for references, and we asked for amounts. And 6 of them did not include all of that information. So that disqualified them. After that meeting, we adjourned and went upstairs to my office and we started looking through the paperwork for Angel Touch and for Jan Pro, which were the only 2 that had everything we asked for. Angel Touch, we went through it and realized they had not used this format that the library had provided, which was fine, no biggie. But in doing so, they had neglected to sign the signature page. We looked carefully at Jan Pro. They had used the format. They had everything that we asked for. I followed up by checking the references for Lillian Williams, who is a local and who has the contract for Jan Pro. And her references were excellent. And so I recommend that the contract be awarded to Jan Pro. I did call, after checking their references, I did call Jan Pro, corporate office in Augusta. And I told them that the amount that they were charging for the 96 libraries, weekly cleaning, was too high. And the person I spoke with her boss, and she came back and said, we will cut it to what you're paying now, which is $345 a month. And so that's what I have for Jan Pro.
Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Is there any questions that you would like to ask Mr. Allison?
Yes, ma'am. Who had the contract last year to clean the?
Jan Pro.
So she
Lillian Williams with Jan Pro.
Same way. So
Yes, sir.
It's basically renewing a contract
Well, yes.
from last year.
Any other questions?
Ms. Childs has one, Mr. Mosley.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Childs?
Ms. Pruitt, let me ask you one question. How long has Rose worked for you?
Mrs. Loudon had the contract with this library from Debbie, 2000. It wasn't when we first opened because we used to have a janitor on staff
2011.
from 2011 until 2018. Well, December 31st, 2017.
Just one other question. Did you have any complaints from her? Was there something she didn't do or should have done?
No, we had no complaints.
Any other questions for Dr.
Let me
Moses?
ask, Prudence, recognizing they had not signed that bid, was there any effort to at least call that to her attention so that she could sign it?
No, the deadline was 2 o'clock. And we went right by the requirements.
Okay.
If I had allowed her to sign it, I also thought that I would need to open the bid up to other people to say, yes, you can get your insurance certificate in, you can get your a business license in.
The other question I have is, you didn't make this decision unilaterally, did you? What process or how much was the board, the library board, involved in making this decision?
The library board approved the RFP that was placed for advertising. And then the library, I informed the chairman of our board, Clarissa Blackmore, and the vice chair, Dolores Hale, of the results. And
So there wasn't a meeting of the board to discuss the bid or
No.
bids, just?
our board meets 4 times a year.
Any other questions?
I think Mr. Lane's got one.
Go ahead.
Before he jumps in, I just want to ask, because Mr. Moses actually asked my question, but, so I'm going to expand a second. Angel Touch had this for 6 years prior, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And how much difference between that bid and this bid that you're asking us to approve? How much total difference was there in money?
I don't know the difference between this particular bid, but I know on the one that we had from Jan Pro before, which was only for this building at that time, we didn't start asking them to clean the 96 library until, when was it?
Sometime 2019.
There was
Whenever they're-
the lady who'd been cleaning the 96 library decided she didn't want to do that anymore. And so we just brought Jan Pro in because they were already on contract here. But there was a $12,000 difference
Between the two?
between the two, not just with cleaning, but the library was having to purchase cleaning products. Mrs. Loudon was not providing her own cleaning products, and the library was having to purchase those. So with the combination of cleaning and purchasing cleaning products, there was a $12,000 difference.
Okay, so, wait, hang on one second, Mr. Chairman. So, I just want to be clear. So she had it 6 years prior.
Yes,
at one- And somebody said earlier there'd been no complaints. Is that accurate?
that's true.
And the bid is a local bidder and it's $12,000 lower than the other bidder, correct?
Well, until Jan Pro said they would cut the price to clean the 96 library
Gotcha.
to $345. They thought it was a nightly cleaning. It is not. It is a weekly cleaning.
I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Lane?
I apologize for maybe this taking too much time, but I think it's important to have a clear understanding. I don't think I did. So Ms. Rose did the work for 6 years. I didn't understand until today that she has not done the work in the past year. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So a year ago, she wasn't awarded the contract.
No, sir.
Jan Pro got the contract.
Yes, sir.
And I take from your comments that you always also had an independent cleaner working in 96.
We did. Well, the town of 96 paid for.
Okay, but somebody else
that.
was doing it.
That's right.
And you lost that person, Jan Pro picked it up.
Yes.
So what I need clarity on is simply this, because honestly, my interest in this is you get a quality of service for the best bang for Greenwood County. But the gap, the financial gap, all things considered, between Ms. Rose's bid this time and the Jan Pro bid this time, and I understand you're saying chemicals, cleaning products come into play. What's that real number?
All right.
And you can give me a rough number. Is it $5,000? Is it $6,000?
No, sir, it's not that much.
Okay.
Let me look here. Debbie, come here and do math. We're looking for the difference.
Mr. Chairman, I believe I can answer Mr. Wayne's question.
Okay.
If you'd like me to, I think.
Yeah, I don't care who answers it. Yeah.
All right. If I'm understanding the spreadsheet correctly, the old way before the 96 number was revised is $18,031 difference between Angel Touch and Jan Pro. And the new way is $6,393. That's the answer to your question.
Who is the higher?
Jan Pro's higher.
Dan Pro's higher than Angel Touch?
Even with revision, there's $6,393 higher.
Any other questions of the Director?
Thank you, Mr. Bruce.
Ms. Allison?
One thing that bothered me that I've heard here today that I have not heard that I would like an explanation for is you said earlier that when one of the applicants didn't sign the contract, you felt that you couldn't discuss that with her at the bid opening.
Well, I didn't know it at the bid opening. I didn't realize that until I
Right.
started going through the
But I
paperwork.
totally agree with your comment that you can't take one person and allow. That was what I would like to hear, was that we couldn't do that because then somebody that didn't have this, I'd have to give them opportunity.
Yes, sir.
But then I was bothered by the fact that you said when Jam Pro gave you a bid, you said the 96 library is a little too high. And is that not doing the same thing when you look at them and
No.
say, well, I
No.
need you to adjust your bid a little bit because you're too high over here?
They had a choice. They didn't have to adjust the bid. It was after I had checked references, and their references were excellent, and their references were other businesses, other commercial places. They weren't individuals, they weren't residences. After I checked that is when I called and said, you had everything you were supposed to have, everything was in place. We don't want to pay $1,200 a month to have 96 cleaned once a week. And that's when she changed the price.
And you think that's okay?
Yes.
You think that's not the same scenario?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your.
Any other questions?
I agree with Mark, because for you to reach out and to give them an opportunity to even adjust that price. To me, it's no different than reaching out saying, although your contract is different, you don't have that signature page, but everything else meet this contract. And then you had somebody to work with you that you never had any complaints on. And then they're local. And then this other company is much higher. I guess I'm just old school. If it's not broke, you don't try to fix it. You work with what you have.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you. Anyone serving on the water trustees who would like to come and make any comment? None whatsoever. Mrs. Blackmore, are you have anything you'd like to say? Is it correct that the board supports this recommendation?
That's correct.
Okay. Mr. Manager, do you agree with the attorney's, Mr. Wise's statement that our policies say that the county manager can waive any technicalities?
Without having the policy in front of me, Mr. Chairman, I believe that is what it says.
Okay. If you were reviewing this bid process, and according to our policy, you have some authority to review, what would be your recommendation to county council? And I know that puts you on the spot. But if they say, no, I won't say that. I mean, evidently there are some technicalities in this, and you and I have had some private conversations. I mean, if the situation existed, would you waive any of these technicalities? What would be your recommendation to us?
Without having been at the bid opening and just knowing what I've seen on this paperwork, I would believe that several of the things that exclude people are minor technicalities, and I would have waived several of them. However, Angel Touch is not the lowest bidder, so if you were to assume all the technicalities that were there are minor, they're not the lowest bidder, so you still have a lower bidder that you need to address. So you have to get into the quality of their work, et cetera. So I would say that I would waive most of these technicalities, but I would not by default give the contract to Angel Touch because they're not the lowest bidder.
Do you agree with, and if you don't care to answer this, you don't have to. I won't hold it.
Tighten those screws.
Huh?
I said, you just tighten those screws.
Do you agree with Mr. Allison's comment that you can appreciate the fact that you did not want to allow the signature to be placed on there after the bid's received, but at the same time you go back to a vendor and you ask them to refigure their bid price? Do you see that as contradictory?
I do.
I mean, in the way you administer the county's purchasing every day, you and the lady in the back there, I mean, is that contradictory? I mean.
Yeah, I would say, and I'm not trying to split the baby, I'm just trying to be honest.
I know, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, and
I would have had the same concern if the argument had been they interpret it to be a nightly cleaning, but it's really a weekly cleaning, and you allowed them to change that. If that had been the argument, I probably would have bought it. But when Ms. Taylor said we wanted them to adjust the number a little because it's too high, that to me seems like you're messing with the overall number. So I think I could have gotten to the same place if the argument had been they misinterpreted it and put a daily number instead of a weekly number.
Okay, you have heard the recommendation.
Chairman, can you give me one more question?
Yes.
And I apologize,
That's okay.
council, but you all know me, so I'm gonna say it out loud. And Prudence, you can answer, or your chair can answer. If Ms. Rose performed a service without quality issues for 6 years, and it sounds like JanPro has provided for the past year without quality issues, why do you want to pay $6,000 more to the other vendor? Just answer that question for me, then I'll know how I need to vote. Anybody? There's an answer to that question. I feel like nobody wants to say it. I need to hear somebody say it.
When Miss Rose was the cleaning person here, she asked for her check early 25 times.
That's irrelevant.
I am not lying.
Well, that's irrelevant.
We have.
Okay, talk to us.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. She asked for her check early 25 times. We have the paperwork to back that up. There were times when she didn't finish cleaning after hours. She would send one person in early. But she got to the point that she no longer had a team to clean. It would just be her or her daughter or her son or her husband, who was very ill. I know on at least one occasion when Mr. Loudon was here, we had to call the ambulance for him in the morning. And the library wasn't cleaned then.
So your answer is it's a quality control issue. It's a quality control.
It was a financial issue in having to, we didn't have to give her check early, but we did.
Okay.
Because we're nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is everybody's minds clear? Mrs. Blackmore, would you like to speak? Please come forward.
Thank you. I have not prepared any remarks, but I can't let this go by without speaking also. At one point, Prudence had to vacuum this area herself when there was a meeting scheduled because it was dirty and it had not been cleaned. There were other times when Prudence herself cleaned the bathrooms because they had not been cleaned. I understand that Rose was having a lot of difficulties with sickness in her family, and she was having a lot of trouble. And I think Prudence tried to be as sympathetic as she possibly could be and reached out to Rose on a number of occasions trying to help her. But the state of the library and its cleanliness became a problem. And I think you heard in Prudence's telling you that there were no complaints. She was trying to not bring this issue up, but it was an issue. It is also my understanding that JanPro, the local franchise, keeps the money in Greenwood County, that it does not go to Georgia, that it is in Greenwood County. I may be wrong, but that was my understanding when Prudence informed us of JanPro's bid. And that's all I have to say. Questions?
I am one member of this council that is totally confused. Because I thought the question was asked, was there any issues with the cleaning?
Yes.
Did that play any part? And I can tell you as an individual who owns my own business, I've been kind and gentle, and it's got me in trouble many times. The thing you have to do is you have to document, you have to take proper procedural actions to be able to say. And so my question to the board and to the director, do you have any records of any written notices to this lady that you had issues and we needed to address this, we need to address this? Is there any documents that would say that and support this position?
The only thing that we can show is the number of times we had to give her check early. That's all that we have.
You said the number of times you had to give her check issue, but you said earlier you just chose to give it to her.
All
You
right.
didn't have to.
She asked for it early, and we gave it to her.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Then the chair will entertain a motion, and I would think the motion should be to approve the contract as recommended by Director Prudence Taylor and the Board of Trustees, or to deny the recommendation, or to disapprove the recommendation as presented by the same. So I ask council, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question? To you, what you said about
I
this?
thought we were through.
No, just a question to yours. You said you gave us three options.
Two options.
Oh, okay.
One,
I
to
missed it.
approve the recommendation or deny the
Okay,
recommendation.
you had something at the end, I
Yeah.
misunderstood.
I mean, if there's another one, let me know.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to.
I guess the third one would be to ask the library staff to rebid the contract.
That was where I was trying to get, that's what I was trying to get
But
to.
you'd have to deny this first, wouldn't you?
I don't know, I was gonna ask the attorney.
I think a denial would.
Would in essence do that
Either
same thing.
be a rebid or go back and to what you already have.
Yeah. Mr. Allison,
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to give you a motion to deny.
I have a motion from Mr. Allison that we deny the recommendation as presented by Director Taylor. Is there a second to Mr. Allison's motion?
Mr. Allison's motion is that we deny the Jan Pro contract recommendation. Is that correct? Mr.
That's
Allison?
exactly right.
That's correct.
Is there a second? A second by Ms. Spencer. Now the floor is open for any additional questions or comments by any member of council.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a comment. First of all, I appreciate the board of the library. I understand we appoint those members, and I appreciate the time that's proven, the time she puts into the library. I don't know who needed to get the contract. I haven't seen any of the bids, but I am bothered by the process in which it was done. Whether this lady should have had it, or Jam Pro, or whoever, or Mr. Chappell said, the lowest bidder, I have no idea. And I'm like Mr. Lane down there, I don't have a preference. I just want the library clean at the cheapest and most efficient way we can do it. But I have a lot of problems with the way this was handled. The board meets 4 times a year, so I don't think they were really involved in it. If you really look at it, I don't think they had a lot of involvement. So it's not anything against this library, the people who work here. I don't want you to take it that way. It's the procedural processing that is so important in what we do every day that just was not carried out the way. We sit here and we say the manager's got the authority to come in and override. Was you involved in this process in any way?
Mr. Allison, I think the manager has the authority to waive any requirements if there's a Greenwood County procurement process. This procurement process was separate and apart.
That's
So the
my
library
point.
is a
So
separate.
that don't even apply,
So that wouldn't apply,
basically.
yes.
My point was, you know, that was some of the statements made, but you really wasn't involved in it.
I knew what was going on, but this is not a county procurement.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But it is our job to be sure that we are here and we have to oversee the policy. So again, I have problems with the procedures in which it was done. That's my problem. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I ain't gonna say anything else.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to, may I speak? I'm going to support Mr. Allison's motion because frankly, there's been too much conversation, there's too much, I call it ambiguity about the whole process, and I support it only with the reasoning that you go back to the drawing board and redo this process again and do it right, damn it. I mean, there's no sense in all this. Discussion about a contract. We ought to do it right, and I think this board has the ability within the board to make sure that it is done accordingly to the procedures that you set forth. And that's all I'm going to say.
I I was contacted by a lot of these people sitting in the congregation, sitting in the audience, you know, the church. I have a minister on each side of me.
Well, we thought you did.
But and to be honest with you, my first response was, we don't tell the Board of Trustees what to do. That we set their budget and they operate the library. They hire the director, they hire the staff, they take care of the day-to-day. And then it was pointed out to me, the clause in the state law, and I sent all of you people to state law, and then you turned around and showed me where I didn't even read it properly. But the state law says that we have to approve the contracts, and that's all we're trying to do. I will base my vote on the pure fact that if this were a county procurement, and the county manager was presenting to us what I have heard tonight, I would say go back and bid it again. That's the only way I can vote, is if this recommendation was coming from our manager, I would ask him to go back and rebid it, and that's the way I will vote tonight. So, any more comments? You ready to vote?
Yes, sir.
We have a motion by Mr. Allison and we have a second by Ms. Spencer that we deny the recommendation that is presented to the county council. All in favor of that motion? And that is unanimous. There's no need to call for the nays. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, folks. You've been very kind and nice to us. Our next matter of business is consideration of appointment of Greenwood County Fire Protection District Advisory Board. You have heard. We still have some meeting, please.
I'm not on the dais.
Well, we better talk to that fella down there because he will quote you verbatim in the morning. The associate pastor of First Baptist Church. They'll call Tony Hopkins tonight.
Adam, you better not say that.
That's my headline. One word headline with your motion.
Snake, you
I'm
better
not
not.
I'm not gonna do it.
All right.
All you got left.
Anita, will you close that door? Lock it. You have heard the recommendation of the county fire coordinator and the recommendation from the advisory, from the fire districts about the advisory council board. What is your pleasure?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Templeton, second by Ms. Childs. All in favor? And that board is approved. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you all.
We have first reading in title only, ordinance 2019-09, providing for the adoption for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2019, of operating and capital budgets for the operation of the government of Greenwood County. That is first reading in title only. Second ordinance is 2019-10, providing for a levy of taxes for educational purposes in Greenwood County, and that is first reading in title only. We have ordinance 2019-11, which amends the zoning ordinance so that one parcel of land owned by Kendrick Williams located at 308 Old Mount Moriah Road in Greenwood changes the zoning from C2 general commercial, or changes it to C2 general commercial from R2 single family residential. That is first reading in title only. Have I left out any business, Mr. Manager?
No, Mr. Chairman, other than, I don't know if we want to actually give this proclamation to Derek, or just how you want to handle that. Y'all approved it, but we need to decide, we'll just give it to him, or do some kind of photograph.
Maybe he's shaking his head.
Give it to him, Mr. Chairman.
If we need to do so, we can do so at the conclusion of the meeting.
Yes, sir.
If there's no other business, then I would call on Ms. Childs to begin our district reports.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you to the Greenwood EMS folk for coming to help us with our health therapy at the Baptist Center. They did a super job there, and let them know that we certainly appreciate them being there helping us out on the 27th of April. And just like to let you know that the county manager and the attorney and myself will be meeting with the Promise, and Steve and Derek will be meeting with the Promised Land both on the 24th at 4 o'clock in Suite 104. Also, to let you all know that there will also be a special prayer vigil that will be held here at the library on May 30th at 5:30, from 5:30 to 6. And this will include those folk that attended the 10th session that we had. And it would just be prayer for this community and things that's going on in the community. And then to say that on June 2nd, we'd like to send out a shout out to Pete Montec, Dr. Brook, and his staff. They have given us permission to use the building and give us security on the 2nd. And we'd just like to say thank you to them for that, helping us out. And also say that the Zaders, Melissa, Charles, and myself, we will sponsor refreshment. And anybody that want to do some help us do some refreshment, we appreciate it. We're going to have drinks and chips for the children on that evening. So if y'all want to help me out, just pick up one of those packages, get it to me. We'll take it over. Thank you so much. This is my report, and just keep praying for our community, because what's going on in our community is not pleasing at all. And instead of getting better, to me it seems like it's getting worse. So now, since the devil just think he has upper hand, we got news for him. Because one thing I do know, that prayer changes things. That's right. So we got to pray him on up out of Greenwood. I don't know where he's going now, but we want him out of Greenwood because he is just, he's awful. So if you all just continue to pray much for him. If you can't come on at 5:30 on the 30th, just think about us and just start praying for this community on the 30th of May. Thank you so much.
Ms. Allison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a reminder to council that it's that time of year again. The farmers market will be opening the first Saturday of June out at the Civic Center, old Civic Center complex. So if you want some fresh produce grown locally in Greenwood County, you can go out there and get it. Thank you. It's in our word.
Ms. Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to say I've been out in a couple of my communities, a couple of the neighborhoods to try to see what we can do to enhance the neighborhoods and get some ideas for our young people. Also, I've been over at the Brewer Center, walking the track, getting some exercise in, and I've been taking Tai Chi. So I was told to invite anybody that wanted to come on a Monday or Wednesday at 9:45 to participate in taking Tai Chi.
Dr. Moats.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would just simply say that we're entering the summer season. It's going to be abnormally hot this weekend, as most of you know, and it looks like it's going to be that way forever. I would just simply say, be aware of elderly people in your community. Be aware that some of them get out and the heat is suffocating for them, and look out for them. And that goes as well for your pets as well. Don't leave your cats and dogs out in the street to suffer in the heat. So my report is the heat's on in everybody's district. The heat is on. And we need to be aware that it can have adverse impact to all people, especially the elderly and our pets. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That is my report.
Mr. Templeton.
Very quickly, Mr. Chairman, you've heard me say from here before that we have a lot, and it kind of dovetails with Mr. Moats here, that you've heard me say on numerous occasions that we have a lot of walkers, runners, folks out, bikers, folks out in the community. We have a lot of distracted driving, as you know. In Lexington County this past week, Their F3 group got together, and over the course of 7 days, and some of our Greenwood folks went down as well and participated, but over the course of 7 days, they wanted to run 6,000 some odd miles for the 6,100 people that were killed, that were hit by cars and killed last year, to bring awareness to that. And they far exceeded their goal over the past 7 days. I just want to say again, because y'all know I'm passionate about it now I'm doing, is that, you know, folks are just, they're not paying attention, they're addicted to these things right here, and you know, but it can wait, because if it doesn't, it can cost a life. The other thing I will tell you is that school is about out, it's winding down. I know the kids are happy, I'm sure the teachers may be happier, I don't know. And on that note, as you know, our District 50 School Board is in the process of trying to hire a new superintendent. They had 2 people tonight, and we could obviously not be at those forums because of the time of our meeting, but I would encourage you to go tomorrow evening for the, and meet those other 2 candidates, because that is probably the most important hire that will be made in Greenwood County for quite some time. And here's my report.
Mr. Lane?
Yes, sir, Chairman, thank you. So much to talk about in District 7. It's been a busy time. We had a big rodeo on the north end of the county this weekend. Cars were backed up Highway 25 from the rodeo site, filled up 3 pastures with attendees. So the rodeo was a tremendous success. Catfish Festival will kick off Thursday night. It's been extended by 1 day, and there will be live music entertainment on Thursday night. So looking forward to that this weekend. I want to thank Councilwoman Childs. I really can't thank her enough. I've thanked her several times, but for really leading the effort in regard to our anti-violence efforts. And Edith, I'll certainly support you on June the 2nd. I hope I can be there. I think I can be there at the Medford Center. And the last piece I think that ties into that, two things. I got an email from our mayor earlier this week, and I'm going to be participating in continued conversation with Boys and Girls Clubs and the evaluation of bringing Boys and Girls Clubs to Greenwood. And then Councilman Moats was kind enough to share some information with me today that he received that I think is another element of maybe what is causing the continuance of our violence, and it deals with drug recovery, or what are called transition homes. And I'm kind of been enlightened that there are just a whole lot of those places in Greenwood, and I think the shooting this weekend, if I'm not mistaken, might have been at the site of one of the transition homes. So that's probably another issue we need to try and address. But thank you again, Edith, for all you're doing, and all is well in District 7, Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, may I have just one more? I promise one more.
One word.
I can't go home if I don't acknowledge Charles Childs in the back. I didn't see him until I came up here to sit down. Charles, thank you so much for coming, and thank you for putting up with me.
I'd like to point out that last Wednesday evening, the 96 Lady Wildcat softball team defeated the Latta Ladies softball team. That is the hometown of Councilman Lane. And they are now...
Typically known as Home of Champions, but not this year.
Not this year, but they are now the AA state champions, and I think that's probably their first state champion for the ladies. I would like for the manager to reach out to Coach Costner and see if we can have them here at council to honor them. I think this is something we need to...
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman.
I want to read something that I'd like to read something that I wrote this morning, and just put up with me. My heart cries out for the loss of this young man, Cody Hawkins. It is sad that this is becoming a common occurrence. However, Greenville anti-gun activist Jack Logan is out of bounds in blaming Chief Gerald Brooks in the Greenwood Police Department. I do not know Jack Logan, but his message is not what our community needs to hear. It is only when we realize the need to think and act differently about how we interact with each other that we will find our answers. Today, I once again look inward to determine if the way I live each day is worthy of being copied by the many who desperately need a positive role model. This tragedy is about us. It is about our community. It is about our youth. And it is about our desire to stop these senseless killings. Let's promote unity instead of division. I say that from a heart that has been touched by what's happened, not only in the last few days, but what seems to be happening on a weekly basis. And while it's not in my neighborhood, it's in my community, it's in my county, it's in my city. And it's people, and it's like a cancer. And I just want to make sure that nothing that I do or say is encouraging division, but we need to be positive. And I can be like anybody else. I can sometimes say things I shouldn't. But that's the way I feel today. And when I picked up the paper, those were my words this morning, and they're even truer today in my heart than they were early this morning. Mr. Manager.
Nothing to report, Mr. Chairman.
Madam Attorney.
Nothing to report, Mr. Chairman.
Then we need to return to executive session to finish our business. This meeting is adjourned to executive session.